Hello, welcome to my channel, Save Infinity. In this video, I just wanted to talk kind of about the idea of healing more shadowy aspects and not being afraid to kind of delve into those more shadowy realms as required, you know, as you are going on like a healing or ascension journey or a spiritual awakening journey, or however you like to refer to it. You know, so often it can almost seem like there's this pressure or need to always be in a positive, you know, light mood, or to be grateful and to be happy and all those sort of things, but that isn't always, you know, the most healthiest or authentic approach. You know, sometimes, you know, it is required to go back down into, you know, some darker aspects or moments or energies in order to really heal and dislodge some of those more shadowy aspects, you know, we have within ourselves, to really transmute them through those sort of experiences that can be a little bit more unpleasant. And so not being, you know, feeling shameful about such things that are all like you've, you know, failed or taken steps back, and instead knowing it's all part of the journey, you know, of being human, and on being, you know, on like a healing journey and evolving our consciousness and all those sort of aspects. You know, because so often, you know, trying to focus too much on, you know, staying in a certain state of, you know, being too like happy or positive, or however you want to refer to it, can almost just be, you know, like masking those more shadowy aspects rather than actually like integrating and alchemizing and transmuting those energies. You know, and being able to sit in some of those darker, more shadowy aspects at times too really does, you know, help broaden that more authentic approach in your own like authentic energy. You know, a bit of an extreme example, but like even myself sometimes, like I think how sometimes I'd be more comfortable sitting and having a conversation with a serial killer than, you know, like Ms. Becky from The Office that, you know, wears 10 masks. In a sense of, you know, obviously being a serial killer is not great, but, you know, it's still a raw expression of authentic emotion in some aspects. You know, and I'm not saying, you know, every serial killer would apply to this example, but I just mean, I guess, from the aspect of, you know, being able to, you know, really see people for who they are, as messy or, you know, as dark as that may be, but just people that are able to be in their authentic energy authentically, no matter how terrible or extreme that may appear, can sometimes feel more comfortable in an authentic sense than, you know, sitting and trying to have a conversation with someone that's, you know, hiding behind 10 masks and, you know, has just a more detached energy in that sense of being very, very, you know, surface level, and you don't really know what's dwelling underneath, or who you're really speaking to, or what they are. So it's okay to, you know, be your authentic, raw and messy self. You know, not condoning that you just go out there and lash out and, you know, be a complete like villain in that aspect, but just not being, you know, afraid to sit in and express your authentic, raw emotions, and, you know, being true to yourself in that aspect, and, you know, not getting lost in the darker aspects. You know, it's kind of, you know, that journey. You don't want to just sit and dwell, you know, on that bottom level of the dark basement forever, but just not ignoring that, you know, that part of yourself does exist and sometimes does need a little bit of a clean up, and so not being afraid to go down and visit it and, you know, give it a bit of a sweep, rather than just, you know, sitting at the top of your penthouse and pretending it doesn't even exist at all. And, you know, instead, you know, allowing all sorts of little critters and monsters to grow and fester down there if you're not ever going down and, you know, giving it a little spruce up or a little visitation, a little chit chat. You know, it might appear all nice in the penthouse if you stay up there forever, but if you're not going down and doing that nitty gritty work, then if you know the time comes when, you know, both the penthouse and basement kind of have to conjoin together, it might be a bit disastrous if you haven't been upkeeping it. You know, if suddenly the passcode to the elevator goes both ways and the base, you know, the energy in the basement can travel up on its own free will. You know, if you haven't been keeping it maintained, you know, it might come and destroy your whole penthouse. In that analogy, you know, and so then in that case, you know, spending all that time in your nice pretty penthouse, at the end of it all could just end up completely ruined and destroyed, because, you know, the shadowy basement beings or energy comes up and just thrushes and destroys it all in the end. Whereas if you kind of take the time to go down and visit the basement occasionally and, you know, clear it out or spruce it up, then there's not that sort of havoc of energy to come up later and destroy everything for you. if that makes sense. You know, like we all do have, you know, light and dark and shadowy aspects within ourselves. So just not being afraid to, you know, to sit and be with and witness and observe all those aspects of ourselves and humanity and life and, you know, the universe and source and cosmos itself. You know, not trying to act or pretend like those sort of aspects don't exist, but also not becoming too attached or too dwelled in them either, but still, you know, giving them the chance to be heard and seen in a way that they can be alchemized and transmuted and, you know, balanced and harmonized within and without. Alright, well, might leave this one here for now. Sending you so much peace, love, light and blessings as always.